Every single YouTuber I know struggles to get sponsors, and yet here I am at only 17 years old, securing brand deals with a company worth over $200 billion. But I'll get back to that, because first I need to walk you through exactly how I made them want to work with me, how a power outage almost ruined everything, and how I finally closed the deal to secure a 5-figure sponsorship deal. Let's go all the way back to when they first contacted me, and yes, they were the ones to reach out first. I've reached out to sponsors before and been successful, but it's much easier for you to get high dollar brand deals if instead of you putting in the work to find them, they find you. So here's a checklist for you to run through with your channel to make yourself more appealing to brands. First, you'll need to understand that it's not worth it for a company to pay for exposure to like 100 viewers. So obviously, you'll need a somewhat large audience that is pulling in at least 10,000 views per video, and I'm not talking about shorts either. Most brands simply won't care about your shorts because it's just very difficult to advertise within a 60-second vertical video. 99% of sponsored integrations are found in long-form videos, so get your views up in that department before doing anything else. However, the views on your long-form videos have to also make up an audience that brands can sell something to. Certain audiences on YouTube have what we call buying power, which is quite literally the ability to buy things. Audiences that are older, from more industrialized regions like the US, Canada, Scandinavia, and Western Europe, and have occupations and hobbies that involve spending money are all prime candidates for a brand to advertise to because they are more likely to buy that brand's product or service. Americans in particular are a big target for sponsors because Americans just tend to have more money to spend on things than less industrialized countries like India or...
Hey! Are you saying that all Indians are poor?
No, I'm not hating on any particular countries or regions. I love all my viewers. Just the reality of advertising on social media is that for companies to make the most money, they have to advertise to the richest countries with the highest GDPs to actually make the most money possible. That's all. And another part of an appealing audience for a sponsor is loyalty, which is usually reflected in a consistent view count across most of your videos and a solid upload schedule. Sponsors like audience loyalty for a couple reasons. First, as a creator getting sponsored, you're getting paid to advertise a brand to your audience because they are more likely to purchase something off of your recommendation because they like you and trust you. In fact, one study found that loyal customers spend 43% more on average than unloyal customers. Consistent views and uploads are both signs of a loyal audience that comes back to your content, which helps a sponsor see your channel as a better investment with potentially higher conversions than advertising a different way. Also, with consistent views and a solid upload schedule, a sponsor can be confident that you'll meet their deadlines and bring ample exposure to the brand in a sponsored video. On the topic of viewer loyalty, having yourself as the main focus of your channel is another really appealing characteristic to sponsors, especially if you show your face. But I mean, I didn't show my face for the first few years I did YouTube and still made tens of thousands of dollars off of sponsors, so it's not 100% necessary, but it definitely helps. The reason showing your face is so important is because naturally, people are 83% more likely to trust other people when it comes to word of mouth and product recommendations. And so sponsors will naturally prefer to work with channels that are based on a human rather than something like a corporation. At the very least, if you're not going to show your face, have a logo that looks like a face so there's at least a little bit of human connection there to help increase your chances of getting reached out to by brands. Finally, you're also going to want to consider that certain brands care about their alignment with your niche in the sense that a YouTube analytics tool like vidIQ is going to have a much easier time selling to an audience of YouTubers like mine versus a more general audience that might have a lot more people in it. If your channel is niche down to a space where there are lots of brands that want to advertise to a target audience, you'll often have an easier time getting reached out to. On the flip side, if your content appeals to a more general audience, you won't have this same advantage, but will still have brands available that just care about advertising to a more general audience that YouTubers in a lot of niches can provide. And before we finish off this checklist, as a bonus tip, make sure you don't do anything stupid on the internet to tarnish your reputation or make content that brands don't want to associate with, because you'll have a really hard time getting sponsors in both of these cases. Now, back to the company that reached out to me. I get a lot of fake sponsorships in my email that are really just scammers using fake emails to try to get something from me, and you probably will too. So when you get an email from what looks like a sponsor, it's important that you run it through my patented bullshit test. First, check the email of the sender. Usually it's from the company's website, like for example, a vidIQ sponsor would have an email like johnsmith@vidiq.com. However, for some brands, especially larger ones, it's not uncommon for them to work with influencer marketing agencies that basically handle all aspects of sponsoring creators on social media and sometimes even managing the company's own socials. Usually just because these agencies are a lot better at growing on social media and are more well connected with creators than whatever company. This is important for us to know because you'll often get messages from these agencies instead of from the brand directly, which means that when I got an email ending with the name of an agency and not the name of the company, I wasn't shocked or scared. And I had never heard of this agency before, so how did I know it was legit and an actual sponsors agency reaching out? Well, the guy who sent me the email introduced himself and also included his and his agency's information in the email signature, which meant that a quick search on Google would lead me to the company website and the LinkedIn pages of the agency rep, so I knew it was safe to respond to the email. In the email, he introduced himself and said he represented a popular video editing company. He didn't reveal the brand up front because it was a very tentative offer at the time, but he did mention that they wanted a dedicated video. A dedicated video is one of the two main types of sponsorships that you're going to find on YouTube, and the other is an ad read. If you watch YouTube at all, which I assume you do if you're watching this video, then you'll definitely have run into ad reads before. Ad reads are usually just 60 to 90 second shoutouts of a brand, like you know. But before we move on, guys, I'd like to just take a minute to thank the sponsor of this video, Generic VPN. Calculating your rate for these is easy. Just find the average view count on your last 3 to 6 videos or so, divide by 1,000, then multiply by 15 to 30. This little equation comes from the fact that advertisers on YouTube and other places pay based on a metric called CPM, which is just a dollar amount per 1,000 impressions on an ad. From my experience and when speaking with other YouTubers, a CPM between $15 and $30 is normal-ish in the case of an ad read. Here's a quick example. Let's say you average 50,000 views over your last 6 videos. Dividing that number by 1,000 gets you 50, which multiplied by 15 to 30 gets you around 750 to 1,500, which means that you should look for a rate in the realm of $750 to $1,500 for that specific sponsorship deal. Dedicated videos, on the other hand, are just sponsored integrations that usually last an entire video. For example, using a company's product or service throughout an entire video, like I did with my Fiverr video, which was sponsored by none other than Fiverr. CPMs on dedicated videos range anywhere from $40 to $80 from my experience, so you're getting more money at the expense of the fact that you have to promote a product for a whole video versus only 60 to 90 seconds. Dedicated videos usually only work if the brand you're working with aligns directly with your niche, because for example, a dedicated video with a VPN company is interesting to pretty much nobody in my audience of YouTubers, whereas this particular case with a video editing tool probably is. So if we use the same example for a dedicated video with an average view count of around 50,000 views on the last 6 videos, you can expect between $2,000 and $4,000 for this kind of integration. But anyway, I responded to his email with a very short and concise message saying I was interested, which is what you should do too. Keep your emails as condensed and to the point as possible so you aren't wasting anybody's time and get the response you need as fast as possible. I did this on a Wednesday, and 2 days after, I still didn't have a response. I usually like to wait 2 to 3 days or so before sending a follow-up message to a sponsor, but at that point, I was better off waiting until Monday because messages sent on Friday get buried in people's inboxes on the weekends when they aren't working or checking their email. And if you really want to optimize your strategy, the company CoSchedule ran an analysis of their data and found that across tens of thousands of emails, the best time to send an email and get one back in a timely manner was on Tuesday and Thursday at around 9 a.m. EST. On Monday, I sent a short follow-up message and they got back to me very quickly, informing me that the brand was CapCut and asked for my rates. CapCut is owned by a company called ByteDance, which actually owns TikTok as well, and is worth over $200 billion, which meant this was a really good opportunity for me. I initially came in with a rate that was higher than I knew the sponsor would take because I also knew they would negotiate me down and we'd eventually be able to meet in the middle of the two, which in the long run made me more money than any other way I would have done it. Because in a situation where a sponsor is reaching out to you, you have a bit of leverage because you know that they're already interested. So unless you say something absolutely absurd, like $100,000 for a 1-second integration on a channel with 200 subscribers, then they're not gonna walk out on you and they'll always just try to negotiate you down. And also, studies show that 86% of people who negotiate earn more money, so it's definitely in your best interest to do so. As expected, CapCut countered with something lower, and we were able to eventually meet in the middle around the rate that I was initially looking for. After that, we locked in the details of the integration, signed a contract, set the deadline for the last Wednesday before the end of the month, which I think was the 25th or something, and landed on a video concept using vidIQ. vidIQ is my personal favorite YouTube analytics tool, and for my video with CapCut, I use vidIQ's AI chatbot to come up with a few different concepts that it said would go viral on my channel and were related to CapCut. Hate to spoil things for you, but the one I went with ended up blowing up. To make things even better, if you want to do this yourself, you can get a month of vidIQ Boost for only $1 using my link at vidiq.com/NateWealth or with this QR code on screen. After landing on a concept though, I soon realized that to make this video, I'd need a little bit more time because I'd actually have to edit something with CapCut to get content for the video. We initially agreed to publish the video on July 25th, so I just asked them if they could push it back to the Wednesday after, which was August 1st. Ideally, I wanted to stick to my upload schedule of posting weekly on Wednesdays. However, the rep came back and told me that CapCut's budget was only set for July, so this wasn't possible. So eventually, I conceded and said that I'd post it on Tuesday, July 30th, the day before the month ended, so the budget would still work out and I would get as close to my ideal upload schedule as possible. Little did I know though, that my editor Mauricio's electricity would die right as he was exporting the video. One of my thumbnail designers wouldn't respond to me for a while and I wouldn't have a thumbnail, and by 11:54 p.m. on July 30th, just minutes before CapCut's budget for July would disappear, I would have no video. I was panicking, Mauricio was panicking, our computers, electricity, houses, everything was just in crisis. But we stayed calm and composed and managed to work against the clock to post in time with, although very little wiggle room to spare. The lesson here is to give yourself ample time to meet deadlines because you just never know what's going to happen when you're making a video versus the clock. Once I submitted everything, they asked for an invoice, which is just a financial document that tells the company or person that owes you money, your bank deals, and personal information for a wire transfer or PayPal or however else you're going to get paid. And if you want my invoice template for completely free, head to, where do they go?
Go to natewealth.com/emails.
Or use this QR code on screen and it'll get delivered straight to your inbox for completely free, no catch. Most companies that I've worked with are either net 30, net 90, or sometimes even net 15, which just means that you'll either get paid 30, 90, or 15 days after you submit the invoice due to company billing cycles. And speaking of getting paid, make sure you follow my Twitter and my Instagram and my friends' socials.